All right, good afternoon, everybody. So let's get into this. We've got a lot to cover tonight with the cerebellum, and we've gone through the last two seminars with how to test it. And if we don't know how to test it, we don't know what we're looking for, it's kind of hard to treat the problem. So, so just remember that with our eye movements, which we'll need to go back and rehab that. What happens is presynaptic to that, we have our anterior canal, horizontal canal, and posterior canal. We have these three canals on the right side and the left side. Now we also have an otolith, and we're not going to cover that tonight or this module, but just remember that we have this anterior, horizontal, and posterior canal that's going to control the angular position of our head. Our eyes go in the opposite direction of our head in health. So the way we're going to rehab this or test it again is if I take my eyes up and to the right and down and to the left and to the left. This is testing my right anterior, right posterior, and right horizontal canal. So if the person's eyes come off target, that's all you need to know, because we should have a ratio of 1 to 1 when we're following our finger. Okay, if the eyes come off target, we go up to the right, we're going to have to rehab the right anterior canal. So what we would need to do is have the patient stick out their right thumb. And what we're going to do is just think about it. We're going to activate our right SCM and right scalenes. Because if we activate our right SCM and scalenes, what are we going to do? We're going to flex our head, laterally rotate to the right, and laterally flex to the right, rotate to the left. So we're going to go into this position, and those muscles are linked to the right anterior canal. Or another way of doing that, you can just tell a person what we want you to do is we want you to take water out of your right ear and dump it out in front of you. Okay. And I just have patients do this. We're going to start out at 5 times. If they get dizzy, if they have a headache, they get nauseated, just stop, because we're exceeding metabolic capacity. But start at 5. We can work up to 10 and do it 3 times a day. Remember, this is just like working your bicep. If it's weak, we have to stimulate the system. And these anterior canals on the right side are presynaptic to the right cerebellum, which is presynaptic to the left brain. Now, starting next week, we're actually going to be talking about the basal ganglion, and this ventrolateral nucleus from the cerebellum is actually shares the same nucleus in the thalamus as the basal ganglion. So that's one of the ways we can get in there and activate the basal ganglion for movement disorders. If we just say patient comes off up and to the right, if they come off down and to the left, this is going to be our right posterior canal. So the way we're going to do that is, imagine that on the right side, we're going to activate our splenius capitis, splenius cervicis, because those are the muscles that are linked to this movement. So if you know what the splenius capitis, splenius cervicis, the muscles, what they do is they're going to extend, ipsilateral laterally flex, and ipsilateral rotate. So ipsilateral laterally flex, ipsilateral rotate, and those are the muscles that are linked to, on the right side, to the right posterior canal. So it would look like this. If I ipsilateral laterally flex and contralateral rotate and extend, we can see that my eyes go down and to the left. The horizontal canals are real simple. We come off the target while the patient is following to the left. And what we want to do is stick our thumb out, and we want to fixate. That's the key thing. We want to fixate on the thumb while we're doing these motions. So what we just went over was 3 canals on the right side, the right anterior, right posterior, right horizontal. None of those could be bad. 1, 2, or all 3 could be bad. And this is the archaeocerebellum, which is the oldest part of the cerebellum. And we have to start from oldest to newest. So this is why you have to test this on every chronically ill patient that comes into the clinic, because we actually got to rehab the areas that we find that are deficient. We want to mitigate those. We want to optimize the recovery, and we want to protect them from further neurodegeneration. Next, we'll test the left anterior canal up and to the left, right left posterior canal down and to the right. So up and to the left, down and to the right, and then the left horizontal canal is eyes going to the right. So again, if we go up and to the left and they come off the target at all, we're going to have to rehab the left anterior canal. So how would we do that? Just think of the anterior muscle groups. The SCM scalenes are in the anterior compartment, and then we're going to activate those. So what are we going to do? We're going to flex our head. We're going to ipsilateral laterally flex, meaning to the left. and we're going to contralateral rotate. When we do that in flexion, the eyes go up and to the left. So again, if we have an aberrant eye movement up and to the left, we're probably going to have some deficiencies in this anterior flexors or posterior lengthening the muscles. So just look at how those muscle groups work together. So just remember, in chronic health problems, nothing is in isolation. This person doesn't just have eyes moving up and to the left. That's linked to the left anterior canal, left cerebellum, left SCM and scalenes, posterior splenius semispinalis capitis and cervicis. So make sure you get that part down. Those are linked together, and then all of these eye movements and the canal and these muscles are going to be linked to this right brain. So see, these are all therapies that you can do to exercise left cerebellum, right brain. So see, if you're kind of what I call a reductionist, where you do monomodal therapy or you're doing adjustments, then you truly don't understand the mechanism of what we're doing here. So don't be that guy, nut or gal. Nothing with a chronic health problem happens in isolation. Okay, just take that home there. So up to the left, left anterior canal, down into the right, left posterior canal. So again, this left posterior canal is presynaptic to the left cerebellum, which is presynaptic to the right brain, and it uses the same thalamic nucleus on this right side of the basal ganglion to help coordinate and control and give magnitude to the muscle groups. But guess what? These muscle groups on the left posterior canal are linked to the left splenius capitis, splenius cervicis. So just remember, we got a splenius capitis, splenius cervicis, semispinalis capitis, and cervicis. So don't get those confused. But what does this splenius capitis, splenius cervicis do on the left side? It's going to extend. It's going to ipsilateral laterally flex, or I want to say right side. Please forgive me, I meant left. We're going to ipsilateral laterally flex to the left, and then we're going to rotate to the left in extension. So look at the beauty of this. If I activate my splenius capitis and splenius muscles on the left side, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to extend, ipsilateral laterally flex, ipsilateral rotate, and my eyes are going to go down and to the left. So again, these are muscles that are connected to the left posterior canal. And if you've got a left posterior canal problem, sometimes people have a tendency to fall back. This can have a right brain problem, which has to do with ADD, ADHD, and autism. Left brain is more dyslexia. So see, if you start looking at this and know how to treat all of these and stop looking at the blinky light and just think that everything happens in isolation by itself and nothing is linked, then, okay, well, the people that listen to that are probably not listening to this seminar tonight. But the point is, see, these things don't happen in isolation. You got a person with a potential left-sided neck problem or a right-sided neck problem, because these right SCM and scaling, see, they can't lengthen, and the splenius capitis, splenius cervicis, which activate these muscles, can activate. So we got some weak muscles there. And see, there's just some things that once you understand this, how you can activate muscles, activate canals, stimulate the cerebellum on the left, stimulate the cerebellum on the brain on the right, and then again, the thalamus in that area, the ventral lateral nucleus of the thalamus, share the same nuclei as the basal ganglion along with the cerebellum. So that just covered in what was that, 8 minutes, the anterior, horizontal, posterior canals on the right and left. So we also have what's called the vermal region, which is I don't have this up here for the vestigial nucleus, but what we're going to see here is we're going to have things like tremors when they're bad, or when we put our finger on our nose, okay, we're going to see the person, their head's going to start to shake, and that's called titubation, okay? So one of the things we can do there is adjustments. We can do plank, we can do bird dog or cross crawl, whatever you want to call that, to actually help with the paraspinal muscles. Now, here we have the accessory cuneate nucleus. Now, the accessory cuneate nucleus is in that medulla medullary, cervical medullary junction area. It takes all the muscle spindles from C1 and above, cervical spine and arms, C1 and above, through the accessory cuneate nucleus. Now, the way we're going to test this, we're going to have a patient. You can have them standing or sitting. I typically have them sitting because I see a lot of chronically ill people. and having them stand up with their eyes closed is difficult enough, even if they can do that, much less trying to get them to put their finger on their nose. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the patient, we're going to test it finger to nose, and what we want to do is it needs to be a straight trajectory, not up and down, not hypometric, not hyper, or terminal tremors. We'll go through all this. I don't know how easier it is to explain it this way. If they miss, what you need to do is when you touch the tip of the finger, accuracy is extremely important. We have to put the tip of your finger on the tip of your nose. All right. If they miss with this hand, how difficult is this? They're actually going to take their index finger and stick it out in front of them. And we're going to do nonlinear complex movements. We're going to have them follow their finger with, with the eye movements while they move this. So you don't move your hand any faster than what you can follow your finger. And I don't want to get into the details of this, but we've got area 3, 1, and 2 on the contralateral side, 5 and 7. And then we have that homuncular map here, but we also have a homuncular map in our superior colliculus and the brain, the cerebellum, and the basal ganglion. So what we want to do is we actually want to look at our finger for eye-hand coordination, depth perception, while we do our nonlinear complex movements. Man, I wonder how much equipment you have to buy to do that. Let me think a second. None, because you do the test, finger to nose. If they're off, please forgive me, finger to nose. If they're off here, then we want to do our nonlinear complex movements. If they're off with this hand, nonlinear complex movements. That's going to deal with your accessory cuneate nucleus. Let's skip ahead just a tad bit and let's go to the dentate, because the dentate also had to do with upper extremities, mainly in the fingers. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look at finger to nose, and we want to see if we have a terminal tremor. Okay, if we have this terminal tremor, if it's bilateral, then we're starting to look at possible metabolic autoimmune disorders that's triggering that. Now, one of the things we want to do here as well is we want to do these alternating movements with our fingers. All right, and we want to see if a patient can actually do that. And guess what? In neurology, we find out what they can't do, and guess what the rehab is? I know this is like unbelievable, but we find something they can't do, and then that's their rehab, is to do that. Okay, so we want to create neuroplasticity for this movement here. Okay, so if they can't do this, it's like all over the place. They can't switch gears from one finger to the next. Then we have to do this, and then we can actually set that up on a metronome where they can do it at 40 beats a minute. Okay, then we move up to 54 beats a minute. Same situation here. It means that all the muscle spindles that fire from these fingers fire to the ipsilateral cerebellum and contralateral brain. I just gave you another therapy for, cerebellum and brain right there. Find out what they can't do, know what the neurological links are, know what's presynaptic, postsynaptic, and then fire the system. All right, another thing you can do is actually this right here. Human beings are the only creatures on planet Earth that can actually do this. So we want to see if they can take their fingernail and put it on their thumbnail for accuracy. If they can't do it, then that's testing for the cuneate nucleus. We have to do that. All right, next one. All right, so the next test we have, I got 9 minutes, so we're right on track. So we're going to have the patient close their eyes, put their hands on their hips, and we want to see if they sway. We want to hold this position for 15 seconds. And we want to count. The reason we want to count is because we need to document on their startup paperwork, when did they fall, which direction did they fall. They may not fall at all. Okay, I see a lot of chronically ill people with blood sugar dysregulation, inflammation, and autoimmune disorders. They have a bad tendency to want to fall because they can't put their feet and their cerebellum's jacked up. All right, so if we fall to the right, this is going to be possibly linked to a right anterior canal. If we fall to the left, back up. If we fall forward and to the right, more of a right anterior canal. If we fall to the left, possibly if we fall to the right, I keep looking at myself from a dyslexic standpoint from a patient. So let me back up and do this right. We close our eyes and we fall to the right. Right anterior canal is a potential problem. If we lean to the right, this is a right horizontal canal, possibly a problem. We want to link this to eye movements. And if we fall back into the right, this is a posterior right canal. Same situation. If I close my eyes and I sway to the left, forward, left anterior canal. If I sway to the left, possible left horizontal canal. If we sway to the back, possible left posterior canal. We have to rehab all of that. Now, one of the things that we're going to do, we have a couple of things here. We have our standard Rumbergs, 15 seconds, document which way they sway and what time, how many seconds did they take to fall over. We're going to put our right foot in front of the left, okay? Like we said last week, the left foot, if you pick your right foot up, the left foot is on the ground, which means more of this is going to be going to your left foot than right, okay? So if we're more unstable with the left foot in the back, we're probably going to have to rehab the left cerebellum. If we have problems with the right foot that's in the back, just remember picking your left foot up, right foot's on the ground, more right cerebellum, then we're going to have to rehab that. Couple of things to rehab. If they have our standard Romberg, feet together, and they fall over, then what we're going to do is these are my feet here, by the way, we're changing gears here. So we're going to have the patient fixate on something on the wall at home, okay? Their eyes will be open. During this entire test that we did, their eyes were closed. I don't want somebody falling at home, breaking a leg, and then suing me for that, okay? So we're going to fixate on an object on the wall. We're going to bring our feet in, okay, until we feel unsteady, and we're going to hold that for 30 seconds. And our goal is to get, eventually create neuroplasticity, brain-derived neurotrophic factors where we can actually start and get the feet where they're, right together. Then we're going to put our right foot in front of our left. If our left, if this was the position that was altered where they fell over, we want to take a step forward, drag our right foot back until we feel unsteady, okay? And then we want to fixate on the wall with your hands on your hips. You want to do that for 30 seconds. And again, so here, this is my right foot here. We're playing a game, left foot in the back, okay? And then we want to bring the right foot in until we feel unsteady. And we're going to hold that position for 30 seconds. And our goal is to eventually go heel to toe. We're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. If the right foot was down in the back, my right foot was in the front, we fell over. What we want to do is we want to start out where we feel unsteady, and then we're going to fixate on an object. We're going to hold that position for 30 seconds, and then we will eventually get to the point, and everybody's going to be different. People are going to say, how long did it take to get, our feet together? Well, it's according to how committed you are to this program and you are to your health, because everybody's going to be different, and also it's according to how much nerve damage you have. Now, what we want to do as well with this is we want the patient, if we see that they have finger to nose, let's just say on this right side that's off, and then they close their eyes and they're leaning over to this right side with the Rombergs. They may not fall over, but they're leaning to the right, or they may fall over. So this may be indicative of a right cerebellar problem. Right now, what we want to do is we want to have the patient, we want them to do nonlinear complex movements with their hand and their feet at the same time. All right, so we're going to do our ABCs with our hand and our foot. Now, they're not going to be able to stand up and do it just like I did it. You're going to have them either lying in a bed or sitting in a couch, sitting on the recliner on the couch. This is the way we're going to do this. We're going to do our nonlinear complex movements with our upper and our lower extremities, and we're going to alternate this, meaning we're going to do our nonlinear complex movements here and our feet at the same time. And then the next time that we do it, notice now I'm looking at my finger, and the next time we do it, we're going to actually look at their big toe. So we'll be doing our ABCs, but we're going to be doing it at looking at our great toe. Now, again, the key component here is they have to stay fixated on this movement, because that's activating their frontal lobe. And then also we want to activate the homuncular map, which is in our frontal lobe, parietal lobe, basal ganglion, cerebellum, and in our superior colliculus. So honestly, I can't believe I got through this whole thing in 25 minutes. Or actually 20 minutes. So what we have is we tested over the last 3 weeks the canal system. We tested the accessory cuneate nucleus. We tested Clark's nucleus, which Clark's nucleus is in the ventral medial cell column in the spinal cord from T2 to T12. I'm sorry, T2 to L2. I'll get it right in a minute. It's been a long day. And then the dentate nucleus. So these are the tests that we have to do for the cerebellum. And once you become proficient with this, it literally doesn't take that long. I'm going to show you in 2.5 minutes. So patient ball of my finger. I'm going to do 3 passes to see if they have any type of neurodegeneration here that needs to be rehabbed. If they come off the target, I know that I have 3 canal on the right, 3 on the left, and I have to rehab that. Put your hand straight out in front of you. I'm going to touch the tip of the finger. Put it fingertip, the nose tip. Accuracy does matter. I'm going to have them do this 3 times to see if they miss. Okay, because of if we exceed the metabolic capacity. If they don't target correctly, they have breakdown, hypometria, hyperemetria. We're going to have to do nonlinear complex movements while they watch our finger. Okay, if we have terminal tremors, okay, here, this is a link to the dentate nucleus, and we're going to probably see some alterations in this the digit span. And guess what the rehab is? Digit span test. I'm sorry, not digit span test, but this alternating finger test with a metronome. We're going to start at 40 beats a minute, work up to 50 beats a minute. And one of the things that I forgot to do was rock, paper, knife. Okay, this is testing more than the cerebellum, but we'll go through this at another module. Do the rock, paper, knife. And guess what happens when they can't do rock, paper, knife? Guess what their rehab is? And this is actually testing the accessory cuneate nucleus. We're going to do the same thing with the timing movement of rock, paper, knife. 40 beats a minute. We're going to work up to 54 beats a minute. We're going to have the patient that do Rombergs, feet together, whichever way they sway. We're going to have them do nonlinear complex movements to that side. Okay, they fall to the left, fall to the left, nonlinear complex movement to the left. Heel to toe. All right. Whichever way they fall to, they're going to do nonlinear complex movements. And the key component here is, since we're testing the lower extremities, Clark's nucleus, they're actually going to be not doing nonlinear complex movements on that ipsilateral side. The takeaway message here is left cerebellum fires to right brain. That's a neurological link. And the right cerebellum fires the left brain. So while we're doing these tests, we want to know what's presynaptic and prosynaptic to the neuronal pools. Thank y'all very much, and I look forward to seeing you next